The Grant Stone Edward boot in natural Minerva might be one of the most underrated and overlooked boots that they sell. While it may be too loud or too bright for some people, it offers an interesting alternative to Natural Chrome XL. And while I'm a huge fan of Natural Chrome XL, I already own several pairs in the leather, so I was curious to learn about this Natural Minerva. Let's talk about the leather. While it is a smooth leather, it's not nearly as shiny or glossy as the Grant Stone website would make you believe it to be. It's actually more like just any other calf you would see, except it has a little bit more of a shine, and it creases similar to how other types of calf leather does. The color is so interesting to me. It's more like an apricot rather than the yellow that you see on Grant Stone's site. However, just like the Natural Chrome XL, it will darken with age, so this brighter apricot thing is not going to last forever, and eventually it turns into something similar to the tan Essex leather from Horween. Grant Stone also offers a boot with that leather. From what I've learned, this Natural Minerva comes from Badalassi, which is a tannery in Italy. It is a vegetable tan leather which uses lots of waxes, and it takes about 35 days to make. You can see the waxes move around just by pressing on it, similar to how it does with Chrome XL. It's a very tough, sturdy leather. Definitely doesn't have the instant softness that Chrome XL has, but it does have some similarities. For example, this leather will be highly receptive to the person, and it will gradually change color depending on the person's feet. If you take a look at the tongue on my pair, I've only worn these 3 times as of filming this, but you can already see the waxes and colors changing just from the speed hooks and the lacing holes. Over time, this leather is going to darken from this nice apricot into something more tan, and I should make a follow-up video in about a year just to show how it looks then and how it looked now. It came with these nice whiskey colored laces. These work just fine, and I'm actually using them quite a bit. But I also use these lighter beige laces just for more contrast. I tried using my Alden beige laces, but they just clashed a bit because they're a little too dark. So either the original whiskey color or this lighter color beige lace works really well. I think over time the whiskey color is not going to look as good because the uppers are going to darken, and then when that happens, I'll probably just switch to the Alden beige laces. So how was the quality control on this pair? Well, there was this mark on the uppers right here, and there is this part of the welt which doesn't match in color. That's a pretty serious flaw, unfortunately, and I'm going to have to return the boots because of this. Of course, I'm not being serious. There's nothing seriously wrong with this boot. The same level of high quality control is present here, just as it was with my Forest Kudu boots. But believe it or not, there actually was one quality control issue that proves Grant Stone are indeed made by humans. The tongue on one of the boots was a little bit crooked. When I first saw this, I was a little concerned, but I put it on my feet and I realized that this would not require a return because I can just manipulate it a bit and it fits fine. It does not cause me any discomfort, so that's really the most important thing. Having a slightly crooked tongue does not mean it has to be returned. I actually have another pair that has this problem made by Alden. My boots from Molded Shoe have this exact same problem on one of the boots, but again, it doesn't affect the comfort or the function of the boots, and in the case of this Molded Shoe boot, this was the only pair in my size, so if I return it, there's no other option. Sometimes you just have to live with these flaws. It's part of the real world. But aside from that, everything else was perfect. Even though the upper is stiff and takes some time to soften, the leather soles are much easier to flex and much easier for me to break in. The way they are constructed, they feel great, and they feel slightly lighter than the rubber sole that I had in the Forest Kudu pair. They actually feel fairly close to Alden or something like the Allen Edmonds Leeds 2.0 shoe, which also uses a double leather sole. But unlike the Leeds 2.0, this boot has a steel shank and there's no leather board in the boot. But what it has in common with the leads is that the color is going to age into something similar to this shoe over time. Just check out this picture from Wyatt of Grant Stone. He sent this picture to show how the Minerva leather ages over time. Now, the leather sole experience for me changed how I look at Grant Stone permanently for the future, because I quickly realized how much more I prefer the feel of the leather sole. It's just much easier to break in, and it feels a little bit lighter on your feet. In fact, there have been several other people on YouTube that have claimed that Grant Stone boots were the most comfortable boots they put on out of the box. And I was surprised by this because I didn't experience that with the Forest Kudu boot. But when I tried this one with a leather sole, aha, now I understand why people are claiming this. It is indeed very comfortable with the leather sole out of the box. Maybe not quite as comfortable as the Higgins Mill from Allen Edmonds, but not far behind. But it's going to be difficult for me because I do have an interest in several pairs of Grant Stone boots. For example, there's this really nice turquoise Chrome XL plain toe boot, and it's only offered with a rubber sole. I just would feel a lot more excited if it had a leather sole, and that's the reason why I'll probably hold off on buying any of the diesel models, because they use the rubber sole on all of them from what I can tell. If there was one thing I would strongly suggest to Wyatt and Grant Stone, is that I would like them to give the option of either leather or rubber for some models. I know that in the early days of Grant Stone, leather soles were much more common on the boots. It would be nice if there was an option to order leather. In fact, if Grant Stone offered the leather sole option, I would have ordered the Forest Kudu boots with a leather sole. Now, trying to gather information on this boot was difficult because not many people seem to be talking about it or posting about it online. But some people did say it was a very stiff leather and hard to break in. This had me worried, so I was surprised when I learned that, at least for me, it was no more stiff than the Forest Kudu boot. That had me scratching my head because Kudu was known as being soft to the touch, but I swear that these were no worse than breaking in the Kudu boots that I had. But maybe part of it was because these had a leather sole, and that made the sole break-in a lot easier for me. In fact, the break-in was pretty easy. The only discomfort I had was a little bit of chafing at the lower shins, but this happens sometimes with other boots when they're new. I've had it with pairs of Alden boots before, but with this pair, I found that just making sure the laces are very snug, this will eliminate the problem. And as I mentioned, flexing is a lot easier on this pair because of the leather sole. But one thing to watch out for is that these leather soles are extremely slick when they're new, so be careful when you're walking on carpet or on any smooth flooring. The insoles feel just like Alden at the heel, and the forefront of the ball area feels sort of like a cross between Cheney and Alden. It doesn't have that fuzzy feeling that the Alden and Crockett & Jones insoles have. It's a smoother leather insole, similar to Cheney, or maybe like Allen Edmonds insoles from 10 years ago. It's not as forgiving as the Higgins Mill boot because it doesn't have the pour-on, but it's certainly highly comfortable, just like Alden and Crockett & Jones. The weight of this boot was a little bit lighter than my Forest Kudu boots, and I think again it had to do with the leather sole. As for sizing, my true Brannock size is an 8.5C, but I wear almost everything in 8D because my heel to ball measurement is 8D. But since Grant Stone recommends going down a half size, I wear 7.5D in this boot and it fits beautifully. It's the same size as my Forest Kudu boots. It feels just a hair more roomy than the Forest Kudu for some reason. That could just be size variation, you know. For reference, I wear the Higgins Mill in 8 or 8.5D, but in the Leo Last, I wear in the same size as the Alden Berry or modified Last. Keep in mind, I'm just sharing this as my experience, and your sizing requirements may vary from mine because all of our feet are different. I also learned that the Leo Last works even better for plain toes than it does for this cap toe. There's nothing wrong with the cap toe, but I'm just saying that I think the Leo last really shines in the context of the plain toe. And I've already mentioned in the last video that this is a great fitting last for me. But let's get to the most important point. Should you buy this boot, or should you go with something like Natural Chrome XL instead? The Natural Chrome XL is a great choice, and I think most people would probably prefer that. If you're feeling a little bit more adventurous, maybe this boot will be right up your alley. But I think the answer depends on if you don't mind the boots being a little louder. Also, the finish of Chrome XL is a little more delicate than Minerva, but this Minerva is also going to get blemished quite easily. If you want something a little more darker without the orange, perhaps Natural Chrome XL is the right choice. But both Natural Chrome XL and Minerva are going to darken over time, so unfortunately there's no way to keep it looking the same as new. How would I wear these? Well, maybe take Bootlosophy's advice by not having the rest of your outfit stand out too much. I find that these work really well with lighter jeans and also with olive or green pants. I think Natural Minerva is definitely more loud than Chrome XL, so that's something you have to just be okay with if you're going to choose this boot. Both of them will fill the casual role very well, and both of these are far better options than those popular dress sneakers. You can just tell I love the dress sneakers, don't you? What would I like to see more of from Grant Stone? Well, other than wanting more boots with leather soles, I do wish they offered some more boots with flat welts. These split reverse welts basically look the same as Alden, which is excellent, but I would like to see a little bit more models with flat welt options. But one thing I do like better about the Edward boot versus the Diesel is that the lacing hardware is smaller, and there's 5 lacing holes instead of 4. I tend to like my boots with more holes and with smaller hardware. I think that's one of the reasons I like Alden boots so much. I like it almost as much as my Alden pair, but I do like how Alden has the extra speed hook at the top. So what does the future hold for Minerva? I have heard from Grant Stone that they might be offering some more colors in Minerva later this year, but we shall see. It could be really exciting. How would I rate these boots? Well, in terms of the quality of materials and quality control, it's a 10 out of 10. In terms of out-of-the-box comfort, I would say it's an 8 out of 10, and it gets more comfortable very quickly. I would say this boot started off a little more comfortable than the Forest Kudu boot that I have. How would I rate the total boot experience? Well, I have only worn them 4 times as of today, but I can tell you these are going to feel great in time. I would give them an 8 out of 10. And in comparison, I would give my Alden Modified Last boots a 9 out of 10. So in other words, I really like these boots, but nothing has yet been as perfect as those Modified Last boots. So if you're at all interested, the Natural Minerva Edward is on sale for $296 American dollars. And if you are buying Grant Stone for the first time, they'll give you an additional discount code, which will make them cost $276. That's basically like getting a pair of Alden boots for $276. These might be on clearance now, I'm not sure, so I'm not sure if they're going to be around that much longer, so you might want to act if you're interested. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you got something useful out of it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.
Go, fire
Fire
truck.
truck? Okay, wait a minute. It's gone already.